recall yesterday I said to you that how we feel in a moment, any moment, whether we feel good or bad, is all depends upon the what we associate to something. The what? The what? Get you guys awake. The what? Thank you. Again, remember, respond back out loud so your energy stays high, so you remember these things. So sit up in your chair right now with some more energy. Time to shift gears, make things work. Sit the way you'd be sitting if you felt energized, excited, outrageous, passionate, ready to do it. Because what we're going to share with you this morning can be as powerful as anything that you can learn on how to understand how to change yourself, as well as how to understand why people do what they do. Now, yesterday I said to you that how you feel, whether you feel good or bad at any moment in time, is directly related to what you associate to it. And what you associate to something determines how you feel. The meaning you associate to something. The problem is, how do we get to the point of having a meaning? Well, we focus on something, and then we try to interpret what it means. And we interpret what it means through our beliefs and or through what we call our rules. Our rules. We all have a set of belief systems, different kinds of beliefs, about if something happens, then it means something else. If this happens, then it means something else. So for example, do we have rules for like what people do if they love us? Yes or no? So if a person loves you, then they what? Then they behave. Then they behave. Now you probably wouldn't feel I loved you because I don't like to behave. I like to have fun, I like to be outrageous, I'd probably break some of your rules. Somebody else, if somebody loves you, then they respect you. And by the way, does this person also then have a set of rules for if you respect them, then you, and they have to look at them a certain way, don't raise your voice. If you respect me, then you don't raise your voice. If you respect me, then you tell me the truth. If you respect me, you follow what I'm saying here? And you know the problem is all these rules are unconscious. What else? If a person loves you, they what? Trust you. Good. If a person loves you, then they communicate. If a person loves you, then they compromise. Now some people's rules are, never in life do you compromise. To compromise is to give up your integrity. Some people's idea of integrity is if you compromise, then you have no integrity. Now what do you think happens when two people get together? One person says, if you love, you compromise. The other person says, if you compromise, you have no integrity. Is there a problem here, yes or no? A lot of us have rules that are absolutely totally unfair. To us, for example, my favorite program that I do is all on this destiny technology I developed, where I ask the question constantly, what makes people do what they do? And I started asking that question more intensely after a guy embezzled $250,000 from me, ran me $758,000 in debt. So I came up with all these incredible distinctions, and I refined them in the last 3 or 4 years by doing a research project. My research project is called Date with Destiny. What it is the most powerful program I do. And I take only 100 people at a time. And I've been doing this now for about 2.5 years. And before they even get there, I get about 18 pages from them on every emotion they ever feel, what triggers it for them, what they believe is most important in life, what they think their experiences of life were, and I analyze every single thing about this person I can. And we bring them in here and we find out what their core beliefs and values and rules are. Because that determines how you interpret your whole life, how you feel and what you do. And then we change that and change their whole life. So for example, if your highest value in life was security, you're going to make decisions differently than if your number one value is adventure, right? Well, if you had somebody whose highest value is security, the last one was adventure, one day you swap them. You think it might change their personality a little bit? Changes everything, everything. Now we don't do it haphazardly, we find out what they want in their life, and then we make sure their values are consistent with what they want, because most people are being pulled in 2 different directions, right? They want to like be successful and they don't want to ever be rejected. Guess again. And most people are trying to meet 2 masters that can't be met, and so they get pulled apart and they sabotage and all that stuff. But the biggest challenge for people, I think, is their rules. So I'm doing a seminar one time, and the gentleman in the room was a Fortune 50 CEO. And I want to respect his privacy, but all I can tell to you is that he's very well known, very respected in his community because he contributes massively to his community. Really a wonderful guy, just a spiritual man, neat human being, you know, just a personable guy. He's got 5 kids who totally love their dad, worship him. Great wife who's totally in love with him and he's in love with. Physically fit guy, he's a marathon runner. He earns about, I guess about $1.5, $2 million a year, plus he has bonuses and so forth. And just a neat guy. So I asked him, are you successful as part of an exercise we're doing? And you can guess, I hallucinated, of course, he'd say yes. Well, he says no. And at first I thought he was kidding, and so did some of his staff. He was dead serious. I said, no. I said, what would have to happen in order for you to be successful? And by the way, if you ever wanted to know somebody's rule about something, Like when somebody says, you're not loving me. You say, well, what would have to happen for you to know I love you? And you'll find out the rule. Well, you'd have to like smile more, or you'd have to like buy me things, or you'd have to tell me things, or whatever. I said, what would have to happen in order for you to be successful? You know what he says? A lot of things. So I said, well, what specifically? He said, well, if you're successful, then you never get frustrated with your kids. What's his chance of being frustrated when he's got 5 kids? Excellent chances, right? What else has to happen for you to be successful? He said, well, you have to always be there when you need them, or when they need you, rather. And the bottom line is he travels a lot. Interesting. You know what? You ask his kids, they think he walks on water. But for him, he isn't meeting, the rules of the game, so he gives himself lots of pain all the time. What else has to happen in order for you to be successful? Well, he said you have to have 8% body fat, and he has 9. Poor guy. What else has to happen? You have to make $3 million a year and only make 1.5 in salary. In salary, you have to make $3 million a year. He'll never feel successful, probably, because just the frustration level will never be met. So the bottom line is he's setting himself up to feel bad. Now, there's another guy in the same class who's bouncing off the walls. Everybody loves this guy. And we asked this guy, I said, are you successful? He said, of course. He smiles, everybody laughs, right? I said, what has to happen in order for you to be successful? In other words, what is your what? Rule, or what are your rules? What has to happen in order for you to feel successful? He said, well, I have to get up in the morning, stand up, look down, and see that I'm above ground. He says, every day above ground is a great day. Who's got a better chance of feeling good? Why? His rules are more achievable. Let me tell you something. In these Date with Destinies, I get to find out most people in life have wired their brain where it's really, really hard to feel good. Because they're going to do like all these things to feel good and really easy to feel bad. If any one of those aren't met, I feel bad. You have to say this, all these things, and then I get to feel good. And if any one of those are out, I feel bad. Is that a very intelligent way to wire your brain? No, but I got to tell you something. I hate to say 100% because I'm sure there must be an exception, but I've not seen one yet. From even the people that seem to be most happy, most successful. We're wired, most of us wired to have pain. And then we go into a relationship, business or personal. And we got all these rules, okay? And you got them. And we expect, number one, for the other person to know what the rules are and behave by them, even though we've never taught them to them, and we aren't even aware of what our own rules are, so how could we? Because most of them are unconscious, aren't they? All we know is we get pissed off when they get violated. And then we say, you should have known. See, that doesn't work. So the conversation about rules that I'd like to have with you this morning, I mean, I could do 5 days with you just on rules, so I'm going to try and keep it tight. What I would suggest is that we get an idea of what each other's rules are in the context of our relationship in business, at least. Like, what are your rules for doctors, staff? You have some rules, whether you say them or not. Doctors must what? What must they do? How must they be with you, with patients, right? And by the way, doctors, you have rules for your staff, and you probably haven't communicated them. You expect them to know them. Of course they know what it is. How must your staff do or be for you, for your patients? You also have rules for patients. Some of you get pissed off at your patients. Patients must what? They must come on time. They must be there. They must. And see, when our musts aren't met, we get rather perturbed, right? And you know what? Patients probably have a different set of rules for you. Patients' rules are, if I get there, then I should be helped. And you know what? When people have a rules clash, they have an upset. I want you to write this in your notes and remember this for the rest of your life. Every upset you've ever had or ever will have with another human being is a rules upset. Every upset you've ever had or you ever will have with another human being is a rules upset. You are not upset with a human being. You're upset with their rules because you have a different set of rules. So every upset you've ever had with another human being has been a rules upset. And whether we get pain or whether we get pleasure in any moment is not based on what happens, but our giving ourselves that pain or pleasure based upon our rules. See, this guy here gets to make himself feel pleasurable when he gets up and looks and sees above ground, because that's his rule. Could the other guy, who is the Fortune 50 CEO, could he wake up in the morning and feel pleasure? Yes or no? Could he physically? Yes or no? Why doesn't he? Because he has a set of rules that say, no, if you were to do that, if you were to give yourself pleasure like that, then you wouldn't really be giving yourself pleasure for the right reasons. Then you'd be stupid. You'd be doing dumb. You wouldn't achieve. So his rules say, if you're successful, you have to do this, 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 and this, and that. The only determination whether you feel rules or not, whether you feel rather pain or not, is your rules. And I got to tell you something. Anytime you've been upset, there's been a rules violation. Either someone has violated your rules or you have violated your own rules. If you're feeling guilty, why do you feel that pain? Because you have a set of rules about how you're supposed to treat people, what you're supposed to do, and you violated your own rules. That's why you get pain. Now, some people don't feel guilty. How many have seen somebody do something you thought, I can't believe you don't feel guilty about that? I've never seen that happen. You know why? They would if they had whose rules? Yours. But they don't have your rules. They have a different set of rules. By the way, whose rules are the right rules? That's right. We all know our rules are the right rules. And by the way, did you sit down consciously and analyze the best possible rule I could have to enhance the quality of my life, my relationship with other people would be this? No. You've gotten your rules, you picked them up along the way, scooped them in here, you've gotten them from pain and pleasure and things that happen along the way, and they may not make any sense at all. So the first step around rules, the first thing to realize is that relationships, any upset in a relationship is a rules upset. So if I come to you and I say, Tony, what that happened, this thing happened, I just got to tell you, you and I just have different rules. I'm not upset with you, but I am upset with these damn rules because they don't work for me. You know? Now I know you don't want my rules either, but there's got to be some place in the middle where we can meet so that you and I can keep the great relationship we have. So I always come to Tony and say, hey, I got this bridge with you. Now, I'm not upset with you, but I'm pissed off about these rules. I'm annoyed by them. You know? I'm sure they work for you, but, you know, give me some clarity. Why do you have those rules? What are you trying to do with that? Well, what if we can accomplish that this way? Could that work? Okay? Upsets are always rules upsets. Now, when you understand that, then what you need to do is you need to be able to identify the rules in advance. I'll give you an example. How many of you have gotten in a game with somebody and you thought you were playing by the same rules? The game could be a relationship, the game could be a sport. Let's try sport as an example. And after you're playing a sport for a while, all of a sudden you feel like the other person's making up rules. How do you respond when you think they're making up rules? How do you feel? Yeah, you assume that means they're cheating. Now, by the way, is it possible they're not making up rules? They're playing by the rules they've always had? Yes or no? Yes. Yeah, but they're not your rules, so he must be making them up, or she must be making them up. Now, here's how it works. Let's say you and I go say, we're going to play baseball together. Okay. Well, we go to play baseball. I'll say, well, you know how to play. You play baseball like American style? Yeah. You know, 3 outs. You know, how many innings are we going to play? 6. Okay. Catch the ball, you're out, that kind of thing. Yeah, no problem. Great. So you jump in the game. We're in a relationship. I get up there, everything's going great, we're playing. The game seems to be working great for about, 5 innings. But in the 6th inning, we say we're going to play 6th. I have 1 man on, 1 out. And I had a high pop fly. Now, as I do that, it's in the infield. My brain says, I better run, because if he drops it, I'm safe. And if I'm safe, my guy will score, I win the game. Right? Does that make sense? If he drops it. Now, if he catches it, I'm what? I'm out. How many would agree with that? Raise your hand. Okay, great, good. So now what happens? I hit the high pop fly, I run like crazy, he drops the ball, my guy scores. I think I won the game, I'm so excited, it feels so good. And he comes over and goes, no, you're out. I go, what? He said, you're out. I said, I'm not out, I saw you drop the ball. You're gonna try and tell me you didn't drop the ball? He said, yeah, I dropped the ball, but you're still out. Well, what are you talking about? If you drop the ball, I'm safe. Yes, usually, but there's this other rule. Other rule? Yes, he said, you know what it is, you've heard of it, it's called the infield fly rule. What? What are you talking about? He says, yeah, here's what it means. Usually you're out if I drop the ball, but not this time. And you didn't win the game, and you're out. Because this time, see what happened is when there's 1 man on or less, and there's a high pop fly on the infield, there's this infield fly rule which says even if I drop the ball, you're still out. You're full of it. You're trying to change the rules, there's no way, I am not doing this, and now we have an argument. And the other guy says to you, listen, everybody knows about this rule. Everybody doesn't. Check it out. How many of you, before we started this process, said if he dropped the ball, I'd be safe? Come on, how many said that? Raise your hand. See, all these people, they know. He goes, oh yeah? How many of you people know about the infield fly rule? Let me see a show of hands. See? See, you can always get other people to back up your rules. And we always try to use social proof. See, they all know, so you should have known too. Will that make the relationship better? We have a conflict right now because, see, we thought we knew what the rules were, but there are these special rules. And does this happen in a relationship? I love you except when. Right? Yeah, I'll trust you except when. This happens except when. And those except whens create a lot of upsets. So what I've found throughout the years is that you got to know what your rules are, number one. The more you understand what your rules are, the better off you can conduct your own life. And if you know what your rules are, you may see some of them are unfair and you may want to change them. And I'm not going to take all the time to try and do that today. That is a process that takes a day and a half by itself. 2, once you know what your rules are and you decide to change them, 2, you must find out other people's rules if you're going to get in a game with them. Because otherwise you're going to have a what? Upset. You're going to have some pain. If you don't know somebody's rules when you get in the game, I guarantee you're going to have upsets. And isn't this what happens in most marriages? You get married, you think you know you're playing by the same rules. You get married and you find out about all these other rules. Or you find out they're not playing by your rules. And then you get real upset. Marriages end because people have totally different rules. And they get upset about them constantly until they go through threshold. So, number 1, get clear about your own rules. Number 2, get clear about the rules of the people you're going to play with, the people you're going to be in proximity with. Now, you're never going to be sure of all the rules, but try and get them clear. Say, you know what? I want to find out what's most important to you. And here's how you're going to do it. You're going to make a distinction. In doing rules, I found something. How many of you have noticed that there are some things you have, rules you have, that you will just flat never violate, and some that you'll violate in a heartbeat? Like you know you shouldn't, but you'll still do it. And then you should on yourself afterwards. How many got that distinction in your head? So I'll give you an example. What must you do to be healthy? Somebody raise your hand. Something you must do to be healthy. Must, not should, must do. Okay? Yes, ma'am. You must eat to be healthy. Okay, that's interesting. What must you do, Carolyn? You must exercise. Now, those 2 different rules, could they have an impact on where you end up in your life? One person's rule is must eat, somebody else's must exercise. Will that change your life, yes or no? Just by having that one different rule, yes or no? Yes. Could very well change your life. Okay, now we have to find out more about what must eat means. We're looking at surface value, right? But the point is, we have different rules. What must you never do in order to be healthy? I'll tell you what, let's do this, just for fun. Let me see if I got a clean sheet of paper here for you, and I'll give you an example. Somebody here who is overweight and would like to change it. I'm not going to change it, but I want you to be able to see what your rules are. But somebody who identifies himself as overweight and would like to change it, please raise your hand. Somebody who's overweight and would really like to change it. And by the way, right now is not changing it. That's the other thing, is not changing it currently. Okay, ma'am, can I use you as an example then? Great. Can we get her a microphone? Are you also the person who stole the money for food? I was just curious.
That was low.
It's just a little harassment, that's all. Okay.
I deny that, and I'll lay blame on someone else.
Well, I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
I said, I deny that, and I'll lay blame on someone else.
Okay, you deny that and you'll lay blame on someone else. Good, I'm glad the training is working for you. Okay. All right, what's your name, ma'am?
Dawn.
Dawn, first of all, I want to acknowledge you and thank you for standing up, because when I say somebody's overweight and all that kind of stuff, it'd be really easy to sit there or feel like that was an attack, and you didn't take it that as all. Give her a hand. Thank you very much. Dawn, if you'll stand there for a second so that we can all catch up on something here, I appreciate it. Before I ask you a question, I've discovered that some rules will never break, and the reason is, if we break them, we believe we'll get massive amounts of what? And those rules, for example, I call threshold rules. You should put this in your notes. There are certain rules we believe we must never break. Certain things we believe we must do always, because if we don't, we're going to get massive pain. Massive pain. So, for example, in a relationship with another human being, man-woman relationship, committed relationship, most people in that relationship have a rule that says, I must never, let's say, sleep with another human being, other than my wife or other than my husband. For other people, that's a should not. Is that true? Yes or no? Yes. Which means the must never person would have so much pain, it would just absolutely destroy them to do that themselves. So that's why they never will. It's not just because they love their spouse, it's because they would give themselves so much pain if they broke that rule. How many follow that? The person who has should not will also beat themselves up. They won't feel good about it, but they'll do it anyway if they get into state. That is, if somebody approached them and boy, they were like, really infatuated with this person and they were unhappy at home, they would violate it because it's a should not. Now, which person's right and which one's wrong, that's not the way to evaluate. You're being unfair. If you grew up with their background, you'd probably have their rules. How many would agree? So making somebody wrong is not going to make it better. That doesn't mean you have to agree with their rules, but you better know what they are if you're going to be in a relationship with them. Does that make sense? Okay? So if it's a should not, it's going to happen. It could happen, I should say. They're not going to feel good about it. They're not going to be proud of it. They're not going to make it right. But they're going to also say, yeah, but my needs to be met, and I really love them. It doesn't mean I don't love my husband, but this person here really loves me and gives me the attention I need, or wife, or whatever. You get the idea? So the same thing, though, is true in virtually every area of our life, including eating. And if a person is presently not producing the result they want in terms of their physical body, it's because they probably have must rules that are limited and should rules that are allowed. You find somebody who's thin and healthy physically, and you'll find out the only difference is not the people, but their rules. Because the person who's thin has a lot of must rules around how they need to be healthy, and probably only a few shoulds. Well, let's find out if that's really true by doing an example. Okay, so it's not right or wrong, because when you see what this is, it'll really probably help. So Dawn, and by the way, Dawn knows what the rules are to be thin also. If I ask Dawn, what must a thin person do to stay thin or healthy, she can tell me, but those aren't her rules. But they may become her rules. She may decide to change her rules once she identifies them. So let me tell you the word I've discovered. I listen to people, right? And whenever they're going along, when they said there's something they would never do, I noticed they use the word must a lot. Must never do that. I must do this all the time. That's the threshold rules. Must, write them down. Must always, must never, must not. So it's must always, must not, must never. Must always, must not, must never. Which one do you think, is it possible, for example, in a relationship, somebody would have a must not sleep with another person and that they could break it, yes or no? Yes, and it would be so painful for them. What about must never? They won't, not only worse, but they would probably never do it in the first place. It'd be too painful. They wouldn't even consider it. How many hear the difference there? So it's graduated levels of pain. Must, they should do. Now, if you violate in a relationship with somebody else, their threshold rules, if you do a must, the relationship is really in jeopardy. If you violate a must never, the relationship's over. How many hear what I'm saying on this? Okay? Because they go through threshold. That's just it. Now, shoulds are what I call personal standard rules. Your personal standard rules are things you should do. You should do this. You should always do this. You should not do this. You should never do this. But it's a should never. And look at her grin. She knows all the should nevers that she still does. Should always, should not, should never. Now I have about 6 different sets of rules, so I'm not going to tell you all of them, but I'll give you a third set because I want you to explore these. I call these the rules of desire. The rules of desire. And the rules of desire are wants to. This person wants to. Would not. Desire not to. Wants to, would not. Would never, and would always. Wants to, would always, would not, and would never do. These are what I call rules of desire. Rules of desire. What the heck, I'll give you one more set. Just so you know what they are. I have what I call rules of reality. The rules of reality are the things you will do. The things you will always do. The things you will not do. And the things you will never do. Things you will do, you will always do, you will not do, and you will never do. And by the way, you can tell me all day long what you should do, and then when I say, what will you do, then we'll find out what you really will do. So this will give me rules of reality versus your personal standard. Because we don't always live the reality of our personal standards, right? And when you don't feel good, it's you're not living your standards. Now, if you don't live your standards, you got this aching feeling inside, you don't feel good about yourself. If you break your threshold rules, you've got massive pain. All right? You got it? So let's try an example of just discovering these. And the words I'm going to ask people, you might want to write down this phrase, is, I'm thinking what phrase I want to use. In this context, in the past, What have been your rules for being physically healthy? In this case, in the past, what have your rules been for being physically fit and healthy in the past? Not what they should have been, what they really were.
What they really were.
What they really were.
What I actually did.
Yes, what you actually did. And what I'm going to ask her then is I'm going to start with the threshold rules. So in the past, what were your must rules for being healthy? In other words, what must you do to be healthy? Not should, but what were the must, the ones you really abided by? Not the ones you thought you should live by, but the ones you really lived by.
What if I was never healthy?
Pardon me?
What if I was never healthy?
Well, that's the point. You weren't. So my point, though, is but even though you weren't healthy, you may have had a rule that you did live by. So what must you do to be healthy in the past? Not what you're thinking now, but the way you've been living. What has been your must to be healthy? You must, like, probably wake up. Right, what else? You must what?
Sleep.
Must sleep.
Eat.
Must sleep. Must eat. By the way, that's a must. Are there people who have under health, they don't have they must eat on their rules? Somebody who's fit, yes or no?
Yeah.
As you probably figured out, must eat is not on my list. It's not a must. I will, but it's not a must. Okay? Because sometimes it's useful not to eat. Sometimes I can take advantage of the fact I'm not eating. That's one way to stay fit. Because I'm not freaking out because I don't have a belief system that says you have to have food to be healthy, because it's not true. Okay? People can fast. How long can you go without food? 40 days. It's more than 40 days. Okay? Is it sometimes useful to go without food? Let your body cleanse, yes or no? Yes. You better believe it. How long can you go without water? A couple days, 2-3 days. How long can you go without air? So what do you really need? Yeah, no kidding. That's my highest priority. Next. Must sleep, must eat. What else?
Must breathe.
Must breathe. Good. What else has been a must for you to be healthy in the past?
Must talk. I don't know.
Must what?
Must talk.
Must talk to be healthy. Interesting. Anything else? What must you never do if you want to be healthy?
Overindulge.
These are the rules you've lived by? Or those are rules you thought you should have? You must never. She's starting to jump into what she knows she should do, right? She's starting to tell me the rules for a healthy person, but see, she didn't see herself as a healthy person. What were your rules? In order to, what was it? You weren't healthy. What did you consider yourself to be?
Say that again.
You didn't consider yourself to be a healthy person. What would you have called yourself back then? You're not healthy, you were what? Are these rules for a person who's fat or overweight, or what would you call this?
Someone who's overweight, doesn't care.
Okay, so what must a person who's overweight, what must they not do? Or what must they never do in order to stay overweight?
Eat very little.
Yeah, they must never eat very little.
Never exercise.
You must never exercise.
Sleep a lot.
Pardon me?
Sleep a lot.
You must sleep a lot. What else must you do to be overweight? Or believe, or be or believe? What must you believe in order to stay overweight? What must you believe in order to stay overweight?
That you're not a person worth much.
You must believe you're not worth much.
You must believe that the people around you don't care.
Anything else?
That it's almost nearly impossible.
You must believe it's impossible to what?
To become thin or to become healthy. To become that person that's inside you that you want out, but you can't seem to get there.
So this person wants to be thin, right? That's the rules of possibility. But the bottom line is they must sleep a lot. They must believe that they're not worth much. They must eat. They must overeat. They must believe people around them don't care. They must breathe. They must believe it's impossible to become thin even though they want it. They must talk a lot. They must never eat. Well, they must never exercise, but they must never eat very little. Yeah, that's clear. Now, what should a person who's overweight do or believe? What should they do or believe?
They should exercise.
They should exercise.
They should eat healthy foods
They should eat healthy.
in smaller amounts.
They should eat smaller amounts.
They should care about themselves more.
They should care about self more.
See that the people around them care about them.
They should believe the people around them care.
Should see that it's not impossible.
They should believe it is possible. But you know what? These are what? Shoulds. The musts are these. If she doesn't sleep a lot, she gives herself pain. If she doesn't eat, she gives herself pain. If she were to exercise, she links pain to that. Do you exercise a lot? No. She should, but the truth is she must never. How's that for some confusion? Because if she must never, or she's going to get lots of pain. This is the pain list. This is lesser pain, but what you should do. Now, right next to her, who is somebody who here considers himself to be fit and healthy? You're proud of your body and what you've done with yourself. Who's right in that position? Raise your hand. Deborah? Great, Deborah here. Deborah, tell me if you would, see if I got a page here. Good. What must you do in order to be healthy each day?
I must exercise
Must exercise. How often?
3 times a week.
3 times a week. In what way?
Aerobics.
Okay. For how long? For how long aerobically?
At least 20 minutes to get my heart rate up.
At least 20 minutes. Okay. Is that fairly specific? What must you do to be healthy each day? You must not exercise in any way. The difference is not people or their ability. The difference is rules. What else must you do every day in order to be healthy and fit?
I must, to be healthy, okay, I don't eat meat
Okay, you must not eat meat.
or dairy products.
Must not eat meat. Must not eat dairy products. The fat content and the clogging of the system that makes you fat.
Cholesterol.
Cholesterol makes you fat. What else? What else must you do or not do? Be healthy.
Well, that has to do with food. It's certain foods that I eat.
Okay.
Vegetables, I must eat vegetables. I must drink water.
Must eat vegetables. I must drink water.
I need to work
I must work.
to be healthy. I like to read information to get information.
Is that a must or a should to read?
That's a should.
How did I know it was a should? She said, I like to. How many heard that? Okay, so that's a should. That's great. She probably does it a lot because it's important to her, but it's not an everyday thing she must do. What must you never do if you want to be healthy?
I must never eat after a certain time,
You must never eat after a certain time. When is that?
after 9 o'clock.
Must never eat after 9 o'clock. Why is that?
Well, because...
Doesn't digest properly, right?
Right.
Okay. What else must you never do if you want to be healthy?
Smoke.
Must never smoke. What else must you never do to be healthy?
Drink in excess.
Must never drink in excess. So now we need an additional rule, don't we? What is excess? What would be excess? Specifically.
Well, for me, probably more than 3 drinks.
More than 3 drinks. So, never more than 3 drinks within a 5-minute period of time. Within what period of time?
5 hours.
5 hours. I think we found a rule that's kind of an interesting rule there. Okay. Right. All right. Now, how many can see there's a huge difference in their rules? Raise your hand. She has a lot of very specific rules. She'll get massive pain if she doesn't exercise. She'll get massive pain if she does. She won't, she will. Pain's the driving force. How many hear that? Okay? She's got things like must not eat meat, must not drink dairy products, must eat vegetables, must drink lots of water, must work, must never eat after a certain time. Do you have any of those rules? Currently?
Occasionally, not.
No, she has them as possible rules. It's possible you could have a vegetable. Okay.
I eat vegetables.
Okay. But it's not a must every single day.
Right.
Now, the key question is this. What should you do to be healthy?
Should you do?
Yeah, what should you do? Listen to her. She's looking at me about the shoulds like she looks at me like the must.
I don't know. There's must or rules.
It's either must or you don't do it.
I
You hear
just
that? Let me
don't
hear
do
that
it. I
clarity.
don't feel good.
Pardon me?
I don't feel good about myself if I don't do those things. If I don't exercise, I don't feel good.
And you want to what?
Feel good.
That's why we do everything, huh? So she's made it clear in her head, if I don't do that, I don't feel good. She's made it clear in her head, if I don't sleep, eat, breathe, and talk, I don't feel good. And if I exercise and that, I feel bad. How many can see how this controls every action they make in the area of health? Raise your hand if you can see that. Now, if you wanted to change and become healthy, you can go on a diet, but that diet will never work long term unless you change your rules. Never. You can forget it. But if you just changed a few of your shoulds and made a must, your whole life would change. Were you ever overweight?
No.
No. Why not?
Because my self-esteem didn't let me get like that.
Why? Did you ever know somebody who was overweight?
No, but I never liked the way it looked on other people. It wasn't attractive to me.
So she values being attractive. Seeing other people was not attractive, so she stayed away from it. There are lots of people in her condition, by the way, when I see these rules, who used to be 200, 300, 400 pounds, and they look like you do, Deborah. And the reason is one day they finally hit a threshold and said, I've had it. I'm sick and tired of being this way. They got so much pain they had to change. And then they changed a rule or two. So you could adopt one of her rules. Which of these what two rules off her list, if you really adopted them, do you think would probably change your life?
Must exercise 3 times a week.
Must exercise 3 times a week. What else?
And
You mean you can't
probably
read
the
this?
one, I can't read it.
I can't believe it.
Probably, I can remember though.
You can remember that?
Probably the one about not eating after a certain time.
Not eating after 9 o'clock. Would you be willing to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing to exercise 3 times a week aerobically? And would you be willing not to eat after 9 o'clock?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be willing not to drink dairy products?
That's a hard one.
If you don't do that, you won't lose weight. Not in the long term. I'm here to tell you, you won't long term. Or if you do, you won't do it healthfully. Because you're going to be pouring fat in constantly. Your body's going to be clogged.
If I got into the habit, I could do it. If I made myself and disciplined myself to do it.
That's right. So if you didn't eat dairy products, what if you cut down on your meat consumption?
Mm-hmm.
How often do you eat meat now?
Not very often.
Oh, that's great. How often is not very often? Once
Probably
a week?
maybe once a week, maybe twice a week at the most.
Okay, so the one that probably is a must for you is not to be drinking milk or not to be having dairy products. Mind yourself some substitutes. And to make sure you exercise 3 times a week. And not eat after 9 o'clock. Would you be willing to agree to those 3 rules?
Mm-hmm.
Is this like important to you, or are you just doing it because like we're asking you to?
No, it's important to me.
Great. How would you like to be supported to make sure you really do follow through? Like what kind of pain device would you like us to assist you with if you were not to follow through?
I'll help.
What would you like to say to us so that you will know that you would lose massive faith if you didn't follow through? Not because we're being mean, because we care about you, but we wouldn't let you off the hook. Like we're going to get to see you for the next year. All of us here. So you'll know that every time you walk in, we'll be coming over to say hello.
Right.
Plus you have your office here that also knows. What could you drink instead of milk, by the way, that might be more tasty?
Juice or water.
Those will probably cleanse you, so you don't have to give anything up. I don't want you to give anything up. I want you to make a better choice on something that nurtures you even more. And if you exercise, in the beginning it might feel a little painful, but if you do it aerobically, you do it properly, monitor your heart rate, you're going to find that you don't have to exercise crazily to make things work. So are you willing to commit to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Will you commit to your staff sometime today as to what you're going to do and why you're absolutely going to commit and what they can do if they see you off track? Okay, give her a hand. Give them both a hand. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to turn this around. Here's what I suggest to you. Think for a moment. Would it make sense to you that the more you know about a person's rules, the more you can anticipate how to behave with that person in a way where you can both win? Does that make sense? Yes or no? Yes. Would it also be useful for you to know your own rules so you weren't in reaction? You could look at your rules and go, God, this is ridiculous, and throw some of them out? Would that make sense? Yes or no? Yes. Now, how do you get somebody's rules? Your rules or anybody else? You simply ask them. For example, I remember one time sitting down with my second youngest son. His name's Joshua. And when I first started coming up with this idea of rules, I sat him down and I said, Josh, what must a dad do or be for his son? Because, we have rules for different types of roles, don't we? So he said, what? I said, well, what must a dad really do or be for his son? And he kind of tilted his head and he went, well, dad must love his son. I said, of course. What else must the dad do or be? He said, well, a dad must be his son's best friend. That's neat. Great. What else must he be? He said, a dad must be there for his son. I said, how? He said, like if he needs his help, he asks for help, he's got to be there. I said, do I do those things? He said, oh, yeah. I said, what should a dad do? He said, well, dad should let his son do his own homework at times because, I said, he should, huh? But it's not a must. He started laughing. He goes, yeah. He didn't even know what I was talking about. He just noticed it was different. I said, why? He said, well, someday my dad may not be there and I have to be able to do it myself. I was impressed. I'm asking these questions when he was about 7, I think. And I said, what shouldn't a dad do? He said, a dad shouldn't take his son to the video arcade and spoil him. I said, shouldn't, huh? He can. I said, well, yeah, he can, but he probably shouldn't. I said, how often? Well, he shouldn't do it all the time. He must do it sometimes. I said, how about moms? What must a mom do or be? And you know what? He had totally different rules for moms than he did for dads. Isn't that interesting? What must a mom or what must the dad never do? A mom or dad must never hurt their son, physically. Good. What must a son do or be for their parents? There you go. It's funny when you ask people these questions, they kind of go into a trance and they search their brain and they go, I don't know. I said, well, if you did know, what would you say? He said, well, a son must love his parents. A son must this. A son must be there. Must care about them. Must think of things to do to support them. Wow, what a neat set of rules. What should he do? Should. I said, what must the son never do or be with his family? He said, a son must never come home drunk. 7 years old. Blew me away. I thought, that's a good must not rule. I like that. Must never rule. What else must a son never do? He said, a son must never do drugs. I thought, because for a lot of people, that's a should not. And one of the reasons it's a must not is I took him down to the South Bronx and let him see what drugs really are. I gave him a neuroassociation to what drugs were. So somebody saying, man, if they make you feel high, I took him down to those crack houses and the welfare hotels, let him smell what the smell of a drug environment's like, see it, feel it. He associates massive pain to that. I could tell him all day long, give him the experience, he'll never forget it. What else must a son never do? He said, a son must never commit suicide. Blew me out, 7 years old, blew me out of my shorts. It's like, well, And I thought that's great because for some people, suicide's a should not. That's why some people aren't here. Interesting, huh? We all have rules. We just need to just find out what they are by asking the question. Ask and you shall what? So find your own rules. Ask yourself, what must I do in order to be healthy? Now, the context I want to do is the environment you all play together in. So with friends, there's certain musts and shoulds. Like, for example, I have a friend who's a very, very powerful and famous entertainer. And I was with him recently. He's been in a lot of stress. And I haven't seen him in a while, a couple, 2, 3 months, 4 months, because I've been so busy and he's been busy. And so I sat down when I'm talking to him, and he's telling me how he has no friends. And part of it is because everybody's trying to take advantage of him, right? Everybody in his perception. But it's true, a lot of people are. He's a very, very, very wealthy man, and probably the entertainer in the world today. And one of the things that happens is he goes any place, he gets harassed and everything else. And so he's got this wall. And I said, well, part of why you probably don't have any friends is the rules you have around friends. What must a friend do? He said, a friend must talk to you every day. I said, wow. I said, I thought I was your friend. I guess I'm not. He went, well, you're a friend, but you're not my friend. He said, but I love you. I was like, hurt my feelings a little bit. I said, and I started to get hurt, and I realized I don't need to get hurt. I just need to know it's his what? Rules. I said, the rules you got are so intense. you make it almost impossible. I said, what else must a friend do? A friend must, and you have this list of must. You know where musts are useful? Around your body. Because you want to have a lot of musts there. Because if you don't pay attention to that, it gets worse. Do you want to have lots of musts in a relationship? In a relationship, the more musts you have, the more pain you have. In a relationship, better have a lot of possibilities, a lot of coulds, a lot of possibilities. You know, some shoulds, but not a lot of musts. Because the more musts you have, the more rigid you are. Do you want to be rigid in the area of what you hold yourself to in terms of health, yes or no? Probably somewhat rigid, because if you don't do that, the body, like gravity, goes in a different direction. But relationships don't go in a terrible direction if you don't hold them to something. Relationships actually flourish in an environment that there's freedom in. Does that make sense? If you give yourself freedom to eat whatever you want, are you going to get healthier? No, so in that environment, you need to create a pain-pleasure response. In a relationship, you want less of those. Remember the story I told you yesterday about the quintuplets? You got to make sure you don't have too many rules, too many musts, or you're going to be in pain. And the more musts you have in your office, the more pain. Now, certain musts are needed because, see, we all need a context. We all need some limits to have value in our lives. See, this juice might be really tasty, but I need a glass in order to drink it. Because otherwise, this juice would drop between my fingers, so I need limits. Is that true? I definitely need limits. Because without the limits, I can't enjoy the juice of life. So some people say, I want no limits. Nah, that's not what you want. You just want to intelligently design the limits so that they add value so you can be able to taste more of life. But you don't want to have no limits. If you have no limits, you don't get to have the juice. And you don't want to have, a glass that's this thin, or you're not going to be able to put very much juice in it. You follow me? So it's a delicate balance how you use rules and how you utilize them really to make a relationship work. So I was talking to him and I said, look, you got rules that make it so you can hold this much juice. That's why you don't have any friends. Now you don't want to make it out like this, but maybe you want to broaden it a little bit. He felt bad about it because he didn't even realize those are his rules. He said, well, I really do consider you my friend, but sometimes I question if you're my friend because you don't call me all the time. I said, you know what? I don't call anybody all the time except my wife and kids because that's the way I live. Because where I am, I'm there. I work all day, all night. I give my all. I said, but when I'm with my friends, I'm there forever. You ever need me, you call one call and say, I need your help. I'm there. That's it. So what I try to do is help him expand his rules. So we need to do that in your office. So the question I'm going to ask you to write the answer down to is the following. By the way, I put up here again, the more you know about the people you care about, the more you know about the people you care about, the fewer upsets you'll experience. Does that make sense? The more you know about the people you care about, the fewer upsets you're going to experience because you'll say, oh, that's right, that's their rule, they want to be respected. I don't like that so much, but that's their rule, and I want to respect it, just like I want them to respect my rules. So, I'm going to work not to raise my voice with them. Not because I have to, but because I want to, because I care about them. And I want them to respect one of my rules, which is not theirs. And they don't want to do that, but they will for me. They'll do it as a favor to me, just like I'll do it as a favor to them. Not because I have to, because I want to, because I got a bridge with this person and I care about them. What keeps people connected from feeling loved all the time or feeling connected? I wrote down really 5 things. Number 1 is rules, and that's what we're touching on right now. People have different rules, and that keeps them from having the same reality and creates a lot of pain. 2 is assumptions as to what things mean. The other thing that destroys relationships is people going around assuming, well, they did this and that means this, rather than clarifying like you've been taught to do. The third thing that keeps people who really love each other from being together is style. See, some people's style makes the other person feel uncomfortable because the other person's rules are you never use that style. For example, some people talk really loud and fast all the time, and talking loud and fast is not part of that other person's style. The other person likes you to talk more soft and quiet and gentle. Because if you talk loud like this, that means to them you really don't care or you're obnoxious. Because if you're intelligent, you talk like they do. Or it might be intensity. Some people, even if you talk quiet, they don't like somebody who's intense all the time. If you're intense, then they don't like you. They like you, they just don't like your style. Remember what I told you the other day, style is more important than substance in the beginning, okay? Timing, what keeps some people who love each other from being together is timing. They have different rules about time. You need to be here every day, all the time, whenever I call, okay? Or you can't say things at these kinds of times. Or you talk to somebody when they're in a bad state and your timing's off and it creates a problem. And the last one, number 5, is withholds. In a relationship where people care about each other, what usually destroys it is withholds. They don't communicate their real feelings. They keep it inside. And resentment builds. Remember the 4 R's? It goes from what? Resistance to resentment to rejection to what's the final one? Repression. And the relationship's over. What is the purpose of the BAM bonus and target board? The purpose is to assist you in feeling good. I want you to really think about that for a second, seriously. Isn't that really what it's about? It's about setting it up so that one of the sources that people in our culture use to feel good is to be able to have capital, to be able to do some of the things that they want. Money allows you to have access to additional resources. That's all it is. So there's certain things if you have money you can get access to that if you don't have money it's a little more difficult to get access to. It takes more of your time or energy or developing rapport or doing something else. But money will go where you can't go. So it's a chance for you to be able to enhance that resource for yourself. But also, more importantly than that is, along the way, to really feel like, hey, I'm contributing to something that's measurable, I'm contributing in a measurable way, and I'm rewarded in a measurable way. It's a chance for you to really be absolute team and in partnership, but also fair. Because the biggest fear that the doctor has is this man or woman has worked their entire life to get in a position where they can provide this opportunity for themselves and for you, where you can contribute to other people in a way that really makes a difference in their life, meaning the patient, and develop great relationships and get paid to do it. What a concept. But their number one concern inside their head is, my gosh, this is a tough thing, there's a lot of risk here, and somebody else could go away and they may lose their salary, but they can get hired again. I can't go away. If things don't work out here, I got these debts. And I gotta tell you, I've been in the doctor's position, i.e. where everybody else got paid and I didn't get paid at the end and I was $758,000 in debt. And everybody else came and said, gosh, we're really sorry, but they got to go do something else that they wanted to. I didn't get to leave that process. So you really need to have a special appreciation for the doctor, if you're a staff member, I think, and realize that it's not as easy as just saying, well, gosh, this person just wants to help me out, that they've got a lot of risks there, and they also have the risk of, well, what if you don't continue to support this? Or what if you don't do the production? They still got to deal with it. And doctor, on your side, you got to realize, even though you have that risk, these people here who work with you, these people also are giving their all, and they want to know that there's something that's accountable. So what we're doing with the BAM board and the target board is saying, hey, we're going to participate together. We're going to make this thing so it's fair. We're going to make it so it's measurable. And we want to make it so that the staff members can contribute at a level where they know they've earned the right to additional income. And doctor, you know they've earned the right as well. So it is purely win-win. And also have a heck of a lot of fun along the way. Because remember, the more you measure something, the better it gets. And if you're only looking at this BAM board, or the target board rather, once a week, or once a month, you don't have enough time to correct it. But if you're looking at it every day, as those of you who've used the system already have done successfully, that's how practices double in their productivity. Because all of a sudden our focus is on what is it going to really take to make this thing work. And you really want to make it so it's fun. If you're not clear on the process of how it works, one thing you should just remember and get clear about is there's a basic minimum for survival. That's so that you can have a salary. And then there's an amount that really has to be collected. There's the dollars that have to be collected as your BIM. There's an amount that you probably have to produce to make that happen. And then there's a third amount, and that's the one you're probably focused on, which is how do we make sure that this thing is exciting? How do we make sure that we're bonused in this situation? And you got a couple people that are really helping to organize that. You got the person who's really in charge of production to a certain extent, the person who's doing the scheduling right. And you got a person making sure it's collected. And they got every one of us saying, even though it's their job, my job is to figure out how do we make sure we produce more and collect more? How can I do that? How can I add value? And little things do that, like taking care of the patient better than they ever dreamed possible, like being nice. Does being nice and smiling, does that show up on the target board, yes or no? Yes. Sure does. Like treating your other fellow associate or team member especially well so that they feel better, and that comes across to the patient as well. Like thinking, gosh, what else does this patient need, and how can we really take care of this patient, not let this patient fall off, or talking the patient into making sure they come back instead of being afraid. All those things show up. Little things are what make things turn around. It's all those little things coming together to make it happen. So get really clear. And by the way, the whole reason we have a coaching program besides the management program is so that those questions that are unique to you don't get answered in the time here. They can be done with your coach. So make sure you pull your coach aside and talk to your coach and say, what do we need? And your coach will be there with you and make sure you're guided through it and it really works for you. You really want to make sure you apply this because this stuff will really change you. All those willing to really go for it and have fun with your BAM and your target board, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion's carried. Next, I want to touch base with you on, once you know what it is you want to do, how do we manage each other to really make that happen? How do we really come across in a way where people hear us and we don't get hooked back into the old communication? Well, the number one way is to have that bridge and keep reinforcing it, right? So that even if we say something in the moment that doesn't come across well, Somebody will dismiss it and go, well, they're stressed or whatever, because I love them, they love me, I know what it is. You don't have to sit down every time and clean it or clear it or clog it or whatever it is that we used to do, or what we do now. That a lot of stuff just disappears because you love the person. How many have found you don't even have to do a bunch of languaging if you just remember how much you love the person? Is that true? Okay? So we want to have that as a base. And we got to know how to manage ourselves. So I'd like to share with you a model for managing yourself and managing other people that will really help you throughout your life. Also, it's the same thing you can do with your kids. You can do it with virtually anything. And it's something I learned from a good friend, Ken Blanchard. If you haven't bought the book, The 1 Minute Manager, I highly suggest you do it for two reasons. One is you should be exposed to this human being. He's an incredible man. Ken Blanchard's got heart of gold. He's like this giant teddy bear. And if you ever get a chance to hear him speak, you should take advantage of that. And I've had the privilege of having a great friendship with him for the last few years. Years ago, he developed something he called leadership styles. And the idea of leadership styles was that most leaders, and by the way, are we all leaders, yes or no? Yeah, we're all leaders. First of all, we've got to lead ourselves. Second of all, we all step into a leadership mode. If somebody's down, we want to step into leadership mode and help get them up, help support them. So it's not just the doctor or the staff or the head of the staff. We all got to be leaders at times. But the bottom line is that most leaders use one or two styles of managing people. Either they used a very direct form of management. And in the directive form of management, people who are real directive, they usually come to you and they tell you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Now, a lot of people don't like to have a directive style used on them. But what Ken Blanchard says is, you know, as much as he loves people, there's a point sometimes in a person's development as they're mastering a skill where you really need to direct them because they're brand new. How many would agree with that? Okay? Now, there's another side, and that is instead of directive, there's participatory management. Or another word that sometimes is used for it is democratic, or another word that might be described for this is supportive management. There are a lot of different words that are used. Supportive management. I don't like to use the word supportive because directive management does support someone at certain times. Now the distinction here is when you're in participative or democratic or supportive management, instead of saying, Gerald, please do this and this and this and this, then do this, then do that, and then come back and see me, and I'll tell you the next thing to do. Which style would that be? Supportive or directive? Which one? Be directive. Instead, I'd say, Gerald, you know, we're trying to accomplish this thing on the target board here, and I'd really appreciate it if you know, we need to get this thing done over here. Do you think you could go do that? Or would you handle that for us? Or do you think it's okay? Or what do you think? And Gerald gets a chance to participate and communicate and say, well, yeah, I like it or I don't like it, or okay, I'll do it or I won't, or yeah, I'm willing to do it, or trust me, I'll handle it, right? Now, the truth of the matter is both styles are valuable, and Ken Blanchard's view is it just depends on where you are in your development. So he developed this model to show us where people are as they grow within a business, within their life, within anything that they do. And the model basically has 4 boxes. You might as well go and draw those 4 boxes, if you will, in your notes. All perfectly square like mine. Okay. And as you draw those 4 boxes, we're going to start in the bottom right-hand corner to represent a first style of experience. In other words, when people first get excited, when people first begin to learn something, when they first get started in a new enterprise, they first come to work in the office, they're brand new. When people are brand new, we call those people enthusiastic beginners. Enthusiastic beginners. Now, an enthusiastic beginner is brand new. What's their attitude usually like when somebody's brand new? What kind of state are they in when they usually are brand new? Yeah, they're really excited, right? This woman's still new, you can tell. Okay. Usually when people are brand new, they're real excited, they're real jazzed, right? It doesn't take a lot. You don't have to like pump them up and stuff, right? They haven't been around long enough to be in those other states that some people have been in who've been here forever. They're really jazzed. They're excited about the littlest things, aren't they? They go, you really get to do that? Oh my gosh, you know this patient gave me that? They were so nice. And you know, and gosh, did you notice this in the wallpaper? Did you notice the doctor said this? Isn't that fantastic, right? How many have been one of these people at one time in your life? How many still are this person? Oh, the numbers are a lot smaller. Oh, Nancy. Nancy happens to be an enthusiastic beginner. No wonder. So in this stage, when somebody's an enthusiastic beginner, what most people do in trying to manage somebody like this is they say, go get them. So they say, Nancy, okay, first day, go get them, babe. You're excited, you're ready to do it, go get them. And Nancy doesn't know what the heck to do. Maybe somebody pulls her head aside and says, you know, I'm going to get to you later on. I'm really sorry. I know we need to tell you some more, but here, just do this and this and this. Handle it. And that's kind of the training style that a lot of times happens for enthusiastic beginner because they're so enthusiastic, you go, well, they'll figure it out. We'll get to them later on. Right now, we got to deal with what's going on all over the place. Now, I know this has never happened in your office, but how many have seen this happen in other people's offices? Let me see. Yeah, that's right. So Nancy goes out there and she trucks like crazy. The problem with that is Nancy isn't being taught the way to do it right. Later on, the doctor will come in and see something is not handled right, and how will the doctor feel about that? Unhappy. That's right. Will not be a happy camper. How many would agree with that? And this may affect the doctor's state. And then, of course, if the doctor doesn't communicate it because Nancy's brand new, and, of course, he doesn't want to make her feel like she's unhappy and stuff, so he'll say, okay, he'll pull somebody else aside and go, you, get this girl up to speed. Am I right? Okay. Or, right? Or he won't say anything, he'll keep it inside, not be happy about it, and say, well, it'll get handled. But does it usually get handled? No, it just collects and usually gets worse and worse, and finally the doctor gets up to here and goes, what is the matter here? And the manager of the office goes, well, we haven't really trained her. Well, why haven't we? Well, because she's doing so well and she was so enthusiastic. And bottom line is, when a person's an enthusiastic beginner, what do you need to do? You need to be very high in your directing. You need to be in a high directive mode. Highly directive. You know why? You got an opportunity right now to teach them how to do it right. They haven't been around long enough to screw it up yet. Right? They haven't been around long enough to make up all this other stuff that everybody's there, been in there a long time will do. These people may get the right habits if you start out with them right. And you're low on support. Low on support? How could you say that, Tony? You're such a supportive person. I don't mean emotional. I mean, you don't have to describe to them the why and wherefores, and you don't have to pump them up about doing it. Bottom line is you're mostly directing them, and they'll do it. You say, here's what I need you to do, okay? I know it's your first day. We're really in a hurry, so I want you to get the right habits. So I'm just going to tell you what to do today, and you just do it if that works for you. Is that okay? I'm not going to ask you anymore after that if you give me permission. Is that okay? Okay, great. Here's what I'm going to do. Do this and this and this. Go here. Come back here. See me. I'll look at it. We'll see if it's right, and then we'll do this. Person does it, comes back. No, it's not right. Let me give you some correction. Do this and this and this like this, okay? All right, now do it. Okay, that's better. Let's do it again. Now go do this. Da-da-da-da. Here's how to do it. Here's specifically how to do it. Come back and see me. Well, that's not quite it. That's okay. Let me correct this one little distinction you need. Go do it again. You keep doing it over and over again. You know what? In the very beginning, it's kind of a pain in the tail, right? Yep. But would it be better to take the pain in the tail in the beginning rather than have the pain in the tail forever? That's right. Because then what happens is they get the right habits, and now you'll never have to think about it again eventually. But if you don't do it right up front, it'll never be right. How many agree with me on this? Okay? And you know what? When they're an enthusiastic beginner, they're willing to take direction. You can tell them what to do, and they're okay about it. I'll give you my favorite metaphor for this. How many of you saw the movie Karate Kid? How many saw that movie? Wasn't that a great movie? Now, do you remember when, what was the young boy's name? Daniel-san. That's right. Daniel-san. Daniel-san, do you remember when he got his little butt kicked and he got a little pain? And he got real motivated to make a change in his life because he had so much pain. And he met Miyagi, right, the great teacher. Now, do you remember when he finally convinced Miyagi to teach him, karate? What happened? There was a scene. And he was outside and he said, okay, I'm going to teach you then. He said, but if I'm going to teach you, I teacher, you student. I say, you do. He goes, oh, no problem. No, no problem. I'm enthusiastic. Yes, indeed. No problem. I'll do it. Whatever you say, right? And so sure enough, he goes, okay. He pulls out this bucket. He pulls out this sponge. And he says, wash the car like this. And he goes, whoa. He goes, I teacher, you student. I say, you do. Okay. And you know what? Since he's an enthusiastic beginner, he buys it. Until afterwards, when he's done with the car, now he's got to paint the fence. Then he's got to sand the floor. And he keeps going on and on and on until finally he leaves the enthusiastic beginner stage. And by the way, did he give him good direction about how to do the car? And did he come back and check on him, make sure he's doing it? You bet he did. Then what happens? He eventually moves to the second stage, the disillusioned learner. Right? And the disillusioned learner is this person who once was an enthusiastic beginner. But you know what happened? They had all these expectations. And are most people's expectations usually accurate, yes or no? Most people know. Had all these expectations, and they thought it was going to be real easy, and it was real hard. Right? And all of a sudden, they're like, oh my gosh, this is not what I bargained for. Or the doctor snaps at them. So to that doctor, she always do this. Does she always do this? She always snap at us like that? You go, no, she doesn't always do that, Or you go, yeah, she does. Are you ready for it? Bottom line is, this person gets disillusioned, and the reason they're disillusioned is, man, in this stage, they're like not in a very good place, are they? And when people feel disillusioned, it doesn't matter whose fault it is, they're just disillusioned. Bottom line is, almost everybody goes through this phase. Some of it lasts an hour, some will last a day, some a week, some a month. It rarely lasts a year because they usually quit. Isn't that true? When people quit, people usually quit in this stage. Is that true? They had all these big expectations, it was all going to be perfect and easy, there was never going to be any hard work, and everybody was going to treat them well, and all the patients were going to love them no matter what happened, and somebody snaps at them, or several things happen, or they're getting a little frustrated, or all of a sudden they have a little spat with somebody, and rather than committing to build a bridge and work it out, they go, oh, the people here are terrible, or that person's terrible, or they make wrong, whatever, and they leave. This is why most people never succeed in life, because they never make it into the final stage, which I'll tell you in advance is called a peak performer. Most people never become peak performers in life because they never make it past this stage called disillusioned learner. What most people do is they go out there and they try something until it gets a little uncomfortable and then they quit and do something else. I call them dabblers. You'll never master anything in your life. A personal relationship, a business relationship, yourself, if you're a dabbler. You might as well forget it. Because you think it's so bad here, and then what happens is you think it's all these terrible people and you go work somewhere else and you have the same problems again because you took you with you. What a concept, So disillusioned learners, you'll be a disillusioned learner somewhere else eventually. The bottom line is maybe you got to learn how to master this state and this view. But as managers, here's what we need to know as managers, and we're all managers, including of ourselves. If you find yourself in a state, you got to know how to manage yourself. If somebody else, here's what you do. In this stage, you still are high directive because this person still doesn't know how to do it right yet. They got a lot more than they had when they were beginning, but they still are learning. It takes time to learn something, doesn't it? To really master it, where you don't have to think about it. But also, you now have to also be highly supportive. High support. High support and high direction. And what I consider this to be is really, if you're a manager here, you become a real coach. Enthusiastic beginner, you're a director. You direct them. But when they get to be a disillusioned learner, you got to become a coach for them. And what does that mean? It means now when you communicate to this person, you don't say, Gerald, you go do this and this and this and this. I'd say, Gerald, listen, I know you're working hard. And I know we're really maxing out. And I know it's a little frustrating for you. All right, what am I doing? Supporting. Okay, I know it's a little frustrating right now because you're still mastering it, but there is light at the end of the tunnel if you hang in there. It really will work out. And you're part of this team. You're going to be part of the bonus if you can master this darn thing. What I need you to do, though, still, is I got to show you what to do because you haven't quite mastered it yet. So let me tell you what you need to do. You need to do this, 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 and this, and this, in this exact way. Are you willing to do that? Because I'm willing to support you. Are you willing to do that? So now what's happened? You no longer just tell them what to do precisely. You now tell them what to do precisely, but you soften it. You follow me? You give them more information. You let them participate more. You say, does that work for you? Is that okay? And by the way, is this a pain in the tail also to take the time to do this when things are rushing around? Yes or no? It's really a pain in the tail. But you know what? If you don't, you'll probably lose this person. Now, some of you, like Dr. Morris here, Dr. Morris has a staff where the average tenure there is 35 years that's been with him. Right? It's pretty amazing. Right? Because Dr. Morris, he paid the price up front in these two areas. Am I right, sir? Okay, he paid the price up here. Or they did, maybe. Combination. I mean, he hung in there with these people during that time. He got them, showed them how to do it right, or he got a staff to do that. And they went through all this stuff. And when they were disillusioned learners, he still took the time to spend the time to support them. Am I right, Dorothy? Yes. And Dorothy, you've been with him how long? 40 years. Okay.
He still is great today as he was 40 years ago. In fact, I said I would challenge anyone in the room that he could run circles in you today.
Dorothy, as long as I've opened this up, I'd like to pursue this for a second because he's obviously a role model. How old is Morris? Can he ask?
77.
77 years old. First of all, give him a hand. What's made your relationship work for 40 years?
His love and concern for
Can you use it? His what?
His love and concern for his patients.
And is that just his patients he's had love and concern?
I mean his patients and his staff. I mean, yes, for his staff and his patients.
Yeah.
Most of my patients, we have to go hug the neck before I can clean the teeth or we can tend to them. We have the third generation coming in. We have more love in that office. In fact, patients would say they could walk in and feel the love in our office. And I'm going to show, and I tell y'all, to show you what a great fellow he is, last October. Now, I've attended 7 bar mitzvahs with him and his family. He had a son having a bar mitzvah in Tampa. He flew all the staff down because we're his family. That's the secret of success.
Stand up on a chair. Stand up on a chair. Morris. And you thought only the cat was famous. That's right. By the way, I stopped to do that for a very good reason. One, to acknowledge the model, but two, to remind you what the real source is of success. See, people move towards things that create pleasure. If your office is like pure love, do you think they're going to want to come there more often? Yeah, they're going to want to come there and they're going to want to be taken care of and they want to be in that kind of environment. But if your office isn't that, people pick that up non-verbally as well. See? So the bottom line is what I was starting to say is that you got to take from enthusiastic beginner, in order to have a peak performer, you got to go through stages. And you don't want to make those stages wrong. It's like seasons, right? There's no wrong season. But you know what? Some people say, hey, I just like fall. Just give me falls. And that's exactly what they get, quite a few falls. Right? They lose a lot. See, the bottom line is we got to take everybody through the season. We got to pay the price. And while you're doing this, by the way, what you're doing is building a bridge, aren't you? As you take people through these stages, which is what they did. They built a bridge that's lasted, half a century almost. No, but she goes, I dare anybody to try and break this bridge. Isn't going to happen. How incredible. Plus in your life, money's going to come and go. Even some of your patients are going to come and go. But your staff can be your family. And when I say your staff, I don't just mean the doctors. Your staff is so well put by Nancy, her staff. Right? It's all our staff because it's our family. Something to remember. So enthusiastic beginner, what do we got to do here? We got to be highly what in managing this person? Directive, and actually low on what? Because actually the more support you give and everything else, they don't need it, plus it's taking up extra time. And you all know you got to be real careful about how you schedule your time, so it makes total sense to do that. Create the bond up front so they know you care about them, and then just direct them. As they become disillusioned learners, you're going to have to change to highly directive and highly supportive. And let's go back to the metaphor I was offering you. Okay, here's Danielson. There was a point when he became a disillusioned learner. Do you remember where that might be in the movie? When did it happen? Yeah, there's a point where he just had enough. Do you remember that? Where he just got done. He was just done. He'd painted the fence, washed the car, did the walls. He was on the ground on his knees, sanding that floor, right? And he's done. It was nighttime, and he came by, and he had it. Because he said, come here tomorrow morning. He hadn't told him any more reasons why he was doing it or anything. And he said, I've had it. I'm done with it. This is how you're going to treat me? I'm going. He started leaving. He went, Danielson. What? Danielson, come here. What? Show me, paint the fence. He goes, what? He goes, yeah. He goes, boom. He goes, ooh. Try this. Yeah, boom. Yeah, boom. Yeah, boom. Ooh, there was a reason behind all this. He goes, now, come back tomorrow morning. We start to practice. He walks out going, wow. He's pretty excited because he saw there was a reason behind all that fundamental day-to-day directing, do this, boring stuff, that it was coming together in the form of something. Then eventually, if you take care of people here, and by the way, you know what the challenge is? Most people go into high support here and they stop directing because the person doesn't want to be directed anymore. They just want to be supported. But that won't help them succeed. You got to do high support and high direction here. Otherwise, you end up supporting them, you're going to have to support them forever because they're not going to know how to do it right. Are you following me on this? But if you keep coaching them, high direct, high support, then you bring them into the third phase. And the third phase, what you want to do is you got to deal with the next stage, which is called a reluctant contributor. A reluctant contributor. And a reluctant contributor is somebody who really doesn't know what to do now. They know all the skills. They know precisely how they should go about it. But you know what happens? They don't have the confidence because they're still, kind of mastering it. So have you been in that place in your life where you really knew what to do, but you're still a little scared or, not thoroughly confident, you're not really certain 100%? How many have been in that place? Okay, you're in a reluctant contributor phase, or phase, if you would. So to give you kind of a metaphor again, use the same movie. Do you remember when they went to the first competition where Daniel-san comes in with Miyagi and they're first signing up? And as they sign up, Daniel-san turns and says, "How's this thing work?" He said, "I don't know." He goes, "You don't know? What do you mean you don't know?" He said, "I've never been to these before." And he's like getting, oh my gosh, he knows the skills, but he's doubting. He's fearful because he's never been in this environment or done it this way or had to do it this specific situation. And so he doesn't feel certain, even though he has the skills. And so what happens? Well, he starts getting his first fight right there the very first time. His heart's beating out of him. This guy comes out of him and he backs out. He really has the skills. Does his manager or coach come over and say, "Now here's what you do, remember, this is it, here it is, here it is." Is that what he does? No, he doesn't direct him. He just looks at him when he's going, "I don't know what to do," and he goes. What does he do? He just supports him. He says, "You know what to do. You know it. Just do it. You know it." See, when somebody's a reluctant contributor, you don't need to direct them anymore. Now you go purely with high support. High support. And you're low on direction. Because they know what to do. You might give them some direction, but you're real low in direction. You're mostly support. You're just high on support. You don't need to go back through it again. They know what to do. And if you support them strong enough in this area, they will finally turn the corner. And the arrow will go all the way into the main source you're after. This person will become a peak performer. And as a peak performer, now what happens is, do you need high support? Yes or no? Yes. A high support of a peak performer? No. You don't have to pump them up and tell them no. Do you need to highly direct the peak performer? Yes or no? No. When a person's a peak performer, you're at low direction and low support. Now again, it doesn't mean emotional support. It just means you don't have to go through all those details with them. Low direct, low support. They can handle it. All you got to do is come along and make sure that we're staying on track. Monitor the numbers. Monitor what's going there. And by the way, this is the doctor's dream. This is also the staff member's dream, isn't it? Where you get to be who you want to be and do it, and your doctor's able to trust you, and you're able to trust your doctor, and you guys get together and you monitor your results, right? Target board, know where you are. But we don't have to go through all that other stuff. And then when you get together, you look at the target board and you just have a good time together. You make a few corrections. You say, "Hey, what's great? What are we doing great? What do we need to improve upon? What are we committed to? Let's do it." You move to the next level. But here's the challenge. That's not true. A lot of people think that because they're good in some other area, they're a peak performer already in every area. And this is based on a particular skill. It can be different environments. Let me be specific for you. Give you an example. Let's say you got somebody in the office who has mastered a particular aspect of support of the doctor, depending upon whether it be a physician or a dentist, whatever the case may be. And they're really good at doing that particular support mechanism. They're a peak performer. They've already been directed. They know it. They don't need any help. They're great. Now all of a sudden, you take on some other type of practice, or you take on some other kind of skill of support. Maybe all of a sudden this person is now, one of their goals is to actually help people to follow up and come into the practice, to follow up for the ReCare program. They're a peak performer in the way they used to assist, but they are brand new in the ReCare program. How many of you follow me on this? Okay? So it's a new skill. You follow me on this? Okay, yes, no? Yes. So with a new skill, they may say, "Well, you don't need to tell me what to do. I'm a peak performer." They may not say it that way, but in essence, if you start to try and direct them, they're going to go, "Wait a second, I know how to do this." How many have ever seen this happen before when you're trying to give somebody some feedback? So what you need to remember as a doctor or staff member is, doctor, you may be a peak performer with the patient, but you may not be a peak performer in getting these people to pay. And maybe you need to be able to have some coaching even from your staff and realize you're an enthusiastic beginner in this area. You may be a little disillusioned because it doesn't work. The staff tells you something doesn't seem to work at first. Don't say, "Well, my staff was wrong." Trust a little bit. Get some more coaching. Get some more support, more details. Then you might say, "Well, gosh, I don't want to encourage people to do that. I can't really do that." Well, yes and no. Are there elegant ways that a doctor can influence someone paying without making it about a relationship about money? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, there are very elegant ways to do that. And there are also ways where the doctor can help the person who's not coming in who can't pay, and you still want them to come in to support them. So the bottom line is, you got to get coach doctor all the way into the peak performer range by your staff. We all have to be able to coach each other. Does that make sense? And we got to not say, well, I'm a peak performer, therefore I've mastered everything, and don't tell me what to do. Sounds like an office where this may have come up before. How many have seen this happen where somebody's like, don't tell me what to do? Because really what's behind that conversation is, I'm a peak performer. How many have seen this happen in your office? Raise your hand. So what we're going to do is get off our egos and say, you're right, I'm a peak performer. And in this area, I could probably make one or two more distinctions. And maybe it'd be good to be an enthusiastic beginner again. Maybe get you excited again about little things. Could make things really work. So does this make sense as a formula? Yes, no? Okay? So we'll look at yourself, somebody brand new, and they're an enthusiastic beginner. What do you want to do with an enthusiastic beginner? You want to be high on what? Low on what? Okay, what's the next stage without looking at the board? After they've been there a while and they run out of enthusiasm? Disillusioned learners. And by the way, when are they likely to quit? That's right, disillusioned learner. And last, you do what at this point? You give them high what? High support and? That's right. If you just do high support, they'll stick around, but they won't be productive. And they'll eat up part of your bonus. Okay? Now, if you keep on contributing to that level, pretty soon they start to master it, but they don't have much confidence, so they're a what? A what? And what do you need to do for these people? High what? Support, but low what? That's right. And eventually, if you stick with somebody through all 4 seasons, they make it to fall. And they become a what? Does that mean you'll never have to direct them again? No. It just means in this area, you probably won't have to, right? It'll be very low as far as direction in this area. That's how you want to think about management from now on. And you're all managers. And you know what? When you start to feel like you're feeling disillusioned, maybe you ought to say, I need some more direction, and go get it. Does that make sense? Or you might say, I've got a lot of direction, but I got that part, but I'm not getting the support, and go and say, listen, I need your help. I'm in the disillusioned learner block. You know, I really want to make this work, but man, I'll tell you what, I feel like, you know, it's not what I expected and stuff. I'm not making you wrong, but I need some support, and I also need more to know what to do. You know, I need both those. Or you know what, I know what to do, I just need some support and confidence. Can you come watch me do this a couple times, or can you give me a few more hints, you know, or can you just come and give me some moral support? Okay? This process, as simple as it is, can really help you. How many of you, by the way, can see people on your staff who are, let's say, in the first stage, enthusiastic beginner? How many have somebody on your staff who's in that stage? So you know what to do with them now. How many have somebody who's in the disillusioned learner stage? Raise your hand. How many are in the disillusioned learner stage? Raise your hand. Be honest. Look, raise your hand. The doctor's in the disillusioned learner stage. By the way, do doctors go through these stages too? Yes or no? Yeah, doctor went out there. Guess what the doctor was told when he was growing up? Be a doctor. Go out there and help everybody. And you know what? Everyone will love you. It'll be great. It'll be fantastic. You'll have a great family and children. You make lots of money. It'll be so easy. Is that how it works? Then they go to school, and by the way, to become a doctor, what did the doctor have to go through? Whether it be medical school, whether it be chiropractic school, what did you say? Hell, that's right. For how many years? Yeah, ages, depending upon the doctor and their specialty, right? So they go through all that stuff, and then they said, okay, they probably told themselves, if I can just make it through there, and by the way, as they went through that hell, people were trying the whole time to make them wrong. Along the whole way, they got to compete for this great gift they now have. They got to compete like crazy, and a lot of people are trying to weed them out to see whether or not they're really meant to be a doctor. They could take this kind of brunt, right? They made it through all that process saying, well, gosh, once I get out of school, it'll be great. I'll get into residency, it'll be fantastic. Then they got to residency, and they found that, gosh, when you're a resident, even the nurses pick on you. Right? You know, they beat you up and stuff because you're just the new, and then you know what? It just never seemed to end. They thought, okay, once I can hang my shingle, once I can do that, now it's all going to be great. And they hung their shingle, and there was nobody there. And they had to buy all the stuff, and they had to put themselves totally in debt. And then they had to go out and hire people. No one ever taught them how to do that. And then you showed up. Right? And they said, oh, you look pretty good. You seem like a nice person. That's a good enough reason to hire you. Or you seem to have a background in that area. Let's go do this thing. And the doctor every day is trying to figure out how the heck he's going to do this. He's out there helping him. Meanwhile, his brain's going, man, I got this overhead. How am I going to do this thing? And then you walk in and go, we need a raise. And the doctor goes, well, can we talk about this next week? No one ever taught him how to manage. They taught him how to help people, and he does a great job, or she does a great job. But no one taught him how to manage. And no one ever taught you probably how to manage. That's what fortune management's for, to coach you through that process, to help you a step at a time to really make it happen so that the dream can come back to life. The dream of being in a position where you can help people, do what you love, build a great family for a lifetime if you want, take care of them at the highest level, take care of yourself, and really win this game. Win the game in a way that has integrity and beauty and love and create something that's even bigger than the dream you had originally. That's what we're committed to, and that's what we'll not only do in this management program, but we'll also coach you individually along the way to make happen. So I hope that all of you appreciate each other. I hope you appreciate your doctor and what your doctor's doing. I hope doctors, you appreciate your staff, because while I just rant and raved about what you've gone through, if you're really honest with yourself, the story is different, but the feelings are the same for the staff. You know, the story's different, feelings the same. And the reason that the rewards are there for you are because of what you've gone through, and the reason the rewards will be there for them is what they go through with you. And pretty soon you can make it a game that's bigger and better than most people could ever dream about. Stand up and stretch. Several of you asked me about the language patterns that I've been using, and I came up with a word a couple days ago to describe something that I think is real important in managing yourself and other people. And what I try to do is inject it into everything we're doing here, but I thought it'd be good to just tell you what I think it is. In my life, I found that if you can find something that works and then give it a label, in other words, identify what it is you're doing when it works, then once you know the label, you can do it again and again and again, because you identified it. It's no longer at the unconscious level. And one of the things that really works in human communication is to use what I now call softeners. Softeners. Softeners are, well, let me ask you a question. What's the purpose of human communication? We've identified it this weekend. What is it? To feel good and to make the people we're communicating to feel what? Yeah, make them feel good too, and hopefully you get a result happen, right? All three. The ideal would be, I feel good, you feel good, and we get a new result that's even better. Wouldn't that be ideal? Okay? In some cases, just I want to feel good and you want to feel good. It's not about results, it's just about sharing. But those are the two goals. Well, the challenge is human language. People react and respond to human language because we all have different meanings for what words mean. Plus our styles and our approaches and all those kinds of things. So one of the things that really changed my life is I remember years ago I read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography. And when I read his book, one of the things that's great about reading a book is when you read a book, you think like the author. See, I've read about, gosh, I don't know, I lost track after about 1,200 books, but I read over 1,200 books in the area of human development alone. I was reading a book a day at one point. That was my whole goal. Figured I'd rather read a book than eat. That was my whole thing, because I thought I can take a person's 10, 15, 20 years of life, pour it in here. And now I have so many references to pull from. Now I've got hundreds of years of experience inside myself. So the bottom line is, in reading his book and thinking like he was thinking, one of the things that I noticed was he said that his life changed massively when he learned not to make people wrong. It's not how he languaged it, but in essence, that's what he said. He said that he found it would be much more intelligent for him, rather than say, this is how it is, to say, you know, I think this might be a good approach. Or, I'm not sure, but I think this would be really a nice thing for us to look at. Or, I wonder what would happen if we did this, instead of saying, we should do this. And I remember hearing that phrase, and I really took it to heart, because I thought, this guy's a fairly bright man. He certainly had quite an impact in his lifetime, plus he was beloved. And see, it's one thing to achieve. It's another thing to achieve and be beloved. That means you get to have the juice. You get to have people love you, and you get to love people. There's not like this separation because you've achieved. And a lot of people don't achieve in life because subconsciously they think if I achieve, there'll be this wall. But see, it doesn't have to be that way. And so I never identified the word for it before until the other day. And as I identified the word, I came up with all kinds of ways to do it. But basically, softeners are a way of delivering a communication, but making sure that the real intent, the real caring stays with what you're saying. The words don't get in the way of your bridge. You don't want to muddy up the road to your bridge. The bridge is still there, but it's kind of hard to get to it sometimes. And a lot of that comes from language. So I think there really are, and I'll just do this real fast, two types of softeners. There are verbal softeners, and there are, of course, nonverbal softeners. Now, remember what I said. The purpose of communication is to feel good, right? And to make the other person feel good. What is fabric softener for? It softens things, and because they're softer, they what? Feel good. How many of you have a water softener at home? Right? Why do you have a water softener? So the water actually what? Feels good. So what's the purpose of using this language? Is to help people to what? Feel good. That's it. And we can do that verbally, and we can do it non-verbally. And here's what you need to understand. There's a critical distinction, and we're going to talk about it in the third session when you come here. Because if there's one skill I have, humble as I am, it's I know how to influence. I know how to persuade. I think it's the single most important skill we can master in our lifetime. Because whether or not your kid's on crack or not is not a question of whether they love you. It's a question is, do you have more influence than the guy on the street corner? And in your lifetime, if you don't know how to influence, then all your ideas and feelings and spirituality and all that stuff, it'll die on your lips. So when you come back here in the third session, we're going to talk to you about how to influence and also how to market, how to move people to action. Because I think it's the most important skill. And by the way, who do you think you have to influence most first? Yourself, absolutely. So what I know from influence is something that's really, really, really important. And that is, if you're going to make a request, what you do before the request, what you say and or what you do before you make the request will play a bigger role on whether that request is answered or not the way you want it than actually what you say within the request. Now, let me say that again because I verbalized a bunch of things. If you're going to ask somebody to do something, what you say before you ask them to do something will play a bigger role on whether they say yes or not than the actual request itself. I call this pre-framing, and you hear a lot of people using this word that I created a few years ago called pre-framing. It means setting up a frame of reference in advance as to what something's going to mean. I'll give you a quick example. I was in a car accident and this last February, and I flew in my helicopter from LA. I'd done a seminar there. I was safe in the sky, but I landed and got in my car, and all of a sudden I'm driving along. I come to a red light. I stop there. I'm on the phone. And I see these lights in my rearview mirror, and I glance up again the last second right before it hits. The guy hits me at 70 miles an hour in a truck, and I'm at a stoplight. Knocked me 50, 60, 70 yards. Nobody can believe I survived it. Unfortunately, I was in a 750i BMW, which is built like a monster car to protect you. It has the tire built in a certain way and everything else. And when it hit, it was unbelievable. And the whole back seat, everything came all the way into the front seat. The stereo went screaming by. It all happened in slow motion. That's what happens when you get in that kind of situation. And they had to prime me out. They just couldn't believe it. And the only thing that happened, I got some whiplash, but that was it. Nothing else. I was fine. The reason I tell you the story, though, is the next day I went out to, not the next day, but the next week I went out to buy another car. And by the way, because of that pain, I had a new value in buying cars. I used to buy cars that were just fast and good looking. I had a new criteria. Could you guess what it was? Safety. I go into the Mercedes dealership and I say, I really like that little convertible, but tell me how it does in a crash. Bottom line is, as I'm doing this, I go to these various dealerships and I'm checking out cars. And the guy just sold me a car. I got another BMW, another 750iL, but I also looked at a smaller one for a sports car, convertible. And the guy was brilliant. Because before he asked me to go in the car, he told me about the car. He got me in the car. And before we got to this one road, he said, now, Tony, before we get on this road, I want to tell you something. This road is really torn up. And I want you to notice, just how incredible this car takes it. Because it should jam like crazy. But when we go, you notice how well the car turns and handles, even in that rough road. Sure enough, we went on the road, and as we're going along, he said, isn't this great? He requested, isn't this great? And you know what I said? Yeah, this is great. And if he had not told me in advance there was going to be this rough road, and we started going across the rough road, my brain would be going, man, this BMW doesn't take rough roads very well. How many would agree with me on this? And we would have said, isn't this great? What would I have said? No, hell no. Or I would say, well, yeah, it's great. And not really believed it. So it's what you do in advance of a request that determines someone's perceptions about the request. How many are following me on this? So one of the things that's real simple you can do when you make a request, and by the way, is this manipulation? No. It's called creating an environment where people can hear you. Does that make sense? What he said was actually true. But if he'd not told me in advance, if I'd gone across the rough road, now he came and said, well, that's really a rough road. What my brain said, yeah, but it still should have done better. It's really hard after the fact to change how people feel about something. It can be done, but it's a little harder to do. How many would agree with that? Okay? So up front, when you know you're going to make a request to somebody, whether it's a big one or a difficult one or whatever the case may be, start with a softener. I need your help. What's that an example of? What is it? It's a softener because what it's doing is it's putting the person in an environment where you're saying, listen, I need your help. And now everything you're going to say is going to be filtered through I need your help. If you just said, I got to talk to you, that's different, isn't it? Or I got to clear something with you. That's another pre-frame too, isn't it? And then for some people, it's a negative pre-frame. Even if you're going to make something, say something small, they're already like, oh boy. So softeners allow us to do it. So what are some verbal softeners you can use besides I need your help? What else could you say to make it softer so people could hear you? What could you say if you had a request or you had an idea or you differed in your view from somebody else? What could you say? Can I share this with you? Say, I have a problem. Some people don't want to hear about that, but that's okay. Can I share something with you? What else? What would happen? I wonder what would happen. Instead of saying, we need to do this, you could say, I wonder what would happen if we ran our meeting this way. I wonder what would happen if when the patients came in we did this. What do you think? Make a note. The most powerful verbal softener is always a question. The most powerful verbal softener is always a question. See, if you tell somebody how things are, you're not going to be able to influence them anywhere near as if you ask them and give them a chance to give you feedback. Now, we all violate this at the time. We all talk more than we ask. But the more we can balance this out in our lives, the better off we are. And I violate this too. You're going to violate it. But most of the time, I'm on top of it. Ask them a question, and then after, ask the question with language like, I wonder. Not, shouldn't we do this? I wonder if we did this, how would that be? What are some other phrases that you could have? Tell me some other phrases. Yeah, I'm not sure about this, but. Go ahead and write that one down. I'm not sure about this, but what do you think? If we did it this way, do you think it might work better? How else could you say it? Yes? Yeah, I'm really curious. I'm curious what happened there. I don't quite understand it. I'm curious. Instead of, what happened here? I'm curious what happened here. What else could you say? I'm concerned. That might amplify it. So I'd say, I'm a little bit concerned. Can you help me? I'm a little bit. See, a little bit is a softener of concerned, isn't it? So you might want to write down a little bit as a verbal softener. A little bit, a smidge. Right? Yes? How would you feel if we tried this? Would that work for you? How would you feel? Which also lets them know you care about how they feel. Is it nice for someone to know you care about how they feel before you make a request? Yes or no? So how would you feel if shows them, hey, they're not just requesting something, they care about how I feel. And I get to participate in this. What else? Tell me about so-and-so. Not, what happened here? Hey, tell me about so-and-so. Nice softener. Gives someone a chance to come there. What other kind of softeners do you have? What do you think about this idea? Instead of saying, here, I got an idea. Listen, let me tell you my idea. What would you think of this idea? What else could you say? How does this sound to you? Suppose we did this. Pardon me? What's your opinion about this? How many people like to give their opinions? Let me see your hands. That's right. So immediately, if you say, what's your opinion before you make a request, you've pre-framed them that, hey, your opinion's important to me, you're important to me. Yes? Is there any reason why? That may pre-frame them towards looking at why they can't, but I still agree with you, it's a good approach. Oh, is there any reason why? I think the tonality of that one is say, I think a better question would be, I'm curious. Why was this done? See, if there's any reason, you're saying there may not be a reason, and write this in your notes right now. No matter what human beings do, there is always a reason. One thing you can count on is there's a reason behind everything we do. Isn't that true? You may not agree with the reason, but there's always a reason. No matter what human beings do, there's always a reason. And I'll give you some of the ones I wrote down. I was in the back thinking, what are they? I put things like, I'd appreciate if you would this. Is that a nice softener? Not of don't do this. Say, I appreciate if you do this. Or would you be willing? Is the other one I use a lot. Would you be willing? Would you be willing to do this? Which again lets them know in advance. You're making a request, but you're letting them, they could say no. If you give people the choice, they don't have to do something, they usually will do it for you, and they make it feel like you appreciate it. One I heard Dr. Gary gives a lot. Gary says, I submit to you. Isn't that nice? It's not, here's how it is, I submit. Submit means you could reject it too. He doesn't say you have to do this. Another one is, I think. I think if we did this, it might work. What do you think? I think, not I know. Another one I put down is I believe. And write down, whenever you say I believe or I think, say I could be wrong. I believe or I think this, I could be wrong. It kind of feels this way to me, but I could be wrong. It looks this way to me, I could be wrong. Everybody loves somebody who knows they could be wrong. Because they know they're right, and they'll say, okay, I can live with you. All right? Another one I said here earlier is a little bit. And I thought another one is it possible? Is it possible we could do this? That's a nice softener, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. Don't you disempower yourself every time you say I could be wrong? What do you think? Why not? What you really do is empower yourself, because if you would have said, it looks like it was stolen and I could be wrong, even if you were right, see, you win. If you say I could be wrong, you always win. Because most of the time you're probably going to be right, especially in your opinion. Okay? Second of all, what it does is it allows people to be closer to you, and so you always win at that level. And when you're wrong, you never really are wrong, because you said you could have been wrong. So it's like insurance. How many of you like to never be wrong for the rest of your life? The only time you're going to be wrong is when you're really not wrong. I could be wrong. Now, if you're wrong, you were wrong about being wrong. It means you did well. Are you confused yet? Isn't it true? If you say, I could be wrong, if you say, I think this, but I could be wrong, then what would it take for you to be wrong now? You'd have to be right. Glad we handled that one. So the most important, how about some nonverbal softeners? What are some things you can do nonverbally to soften your communication? Smile, what a concept. Eye contact's another one. What else? Touching someone, yeah, that definitely softens them. Well, yeah, okay, in some cases. What's that? That wasn't me. I'm not taking the rap for that one. Yes? Shh. What'd you say? Blow a kiss? Okay, well that's often something. Somebody's going, I need to talk to you, and you go. Nice little pattern up there, a little softener, right? What else? Thumbs up. What else? A wave. A wink. You know what I love to do? I love to wave at people I don't know. Isn't that kind of fun? Go up to a restaurant and go, and they're like, and they go into deep trance going, who is he? What is that person? Right? What else? Sometimes just calling by their name is nice enough of it. Instead of just saying, do this now. What do you think about this? Bob, Tony, Christy, Dot. That's the best therapy of all. Oh, that's verbal. Thank you very much. You're right. It's verbal. Yes. A subdued body position versus an aggressive body position. So yeah, if you come in more relaxed and go, you're pissing me off. Would that soften the delivery of that communication? Yes. So is tonality a nonverbal, yes or no? Yes, tonality is a nonverbal. It's not the words itself, it's a nonverbal. The tone you offer. Yes?
Tony, in regards to dealing with a situation, and being that we're dealing with real life situations here, and maybe not directly toward our practices, if it's something that you know that you can't deliver, is there a certain way you recommend expressing to a person you want to work it out?
Give me an example so you know what you're talking about.
You're somewhere and somebody wants a certain amount for something and you can't deliver that, but you want to make it work out.
Honesty. I hate to be so basic, but I'll tell you what I do. I come to somebody and I say, you know something? I need your help. I really want you to be fair to you. In fact, there's somebody right now that has an opportunity to do some business with myself and the Fortune board, and he's in the same business I am. I have an investment company and an insurance company. I own one. Right. And he wants to sell insurance to us. And I happen to like the guy because I got to meet him. I didn't know he was in the insurance business. Right. He also happens to be a friend of one of our partners. And he wants to insure us all. So like, how do you deal with that? So I just pulled him aside a little bit earlier and I said, you know, I really want to see your policy. And do you know that I own an insurance company? He said, well, no. I said, well, you know, the bottom line is I want to support you and I want to be supported by you. And I'm sure there's something we can find out that's fair. I don't know what we can and can't do, but I'm really open to discussion. I just want you to know that I'm on your side, but I also want you to know that I'm also a businessman too, so somewhere there's got to be a balance there. You know, will that work for you? Yeah. He said, oh yeah, I already heard that, and we'll work it out. And he was fantastic. People are fantastic if you just expect them to be, and if you just treat them honestly and you're sincere. I hate to be so basic, and if you're loving and sincere, you can't believe what people will do. You know, and I'm not saying it's always perfect, but that's how you deliver it as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so these key phrases will be of help when you're dealing with even a situation like this?
Absolutely, softeners. Okay. Softeners. Hey, and telling people up front what your intention is really works. You might want to write that down. Telling people up front, that's the best softener of all. Up front, tell me your intentions. You go in a meeting and you say, Charles, I want to make this work, and I need your help. So what does that tell you already? I want to make this work. I had a conversation with some people last night, and the biggest challenge I had was I had never heard them state their intention. All I'd heard was all the questions they had. So it made me say, well, what's their intent? And I didn't see anything to show the intent was absolutely clear, other than they kept following me from city to city, so I was impressed by that. Okay? But they could also be calling me city to city and harassing me too, so what's the difference? I need to know what their intent is. If you tell somebody up front what the intent is, it's the perfect pre-frame. Now, everything you do will be filtered through that intent. Okay? So tell people up front, hey, I want to make this work. And, you know, I don't know how yet, but I want to make it work. Or, you know, I want to have a relationship with you, but I can't buy your product now. I can't deliver this thing right now. But I want to make it work. How do we do this? Or can we talk in a month? Or what works?
Like a win-win.
Exactly. Win-win is still the philosophy behind it all.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're certainly welcome. Give me a hand. Good question. Does this make sense? By the way, does this only work in the office? Now, softeners can change your life. A little thing like that will change the way people feel about you. It'll change how you deal with everything in your life. Plus, it'll make you feel better about yourself. Because all of a sudden you got bigger. You're always bigger if you hold the possibility that you don't know how things really are. Because you know what? You offer yourself the opportunity to see more. When you start closing the door and saying, this is the only way it can be, and you're right, your whole world shrinks. And you're no longer a kid, you're an old person. And don't ever plan on being one of those.